joined investment banking in 91, Harshad Mehta came on the scene.
Harshad Shantilal Mehta.
Big move.
In India, we see that fintech companies are burning money for 5-10 years.
Yeah.
In India, we tend to support and glorify founders too much.
Exactly.
I think that should disappear.
Customer want us to understand them rather than we understanding our process and system. Actually, and that is where we have to align our thought process.
Gen Zs is the next powerhouse. They're going to do some crazy amount of stuff. There is a very famous Rajnikant dialogue. It's in Tamil, which I always tell my team and my friends and all. Kashtapadame edum kadikadu.
கஷ்டப்படாம கிடைக்கிறது
Innikum nilikadu. What it means is,
Welcome everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Impactables with Rishav. Today we have Mr. Ravi Shankar, and he's a seasoned banker and entrepreneur from past 30 years. Welcome Ravi. Thank you so much for accepting the
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much. So we'll start this discussion with the one interesting topic which I came across in your LinkedIn post, that you wrote recently that around $75 billion of money comes inward via different overseas companies, and majority of this money gets into these SMEs and people who do the trading in the market.
Right.
And there's no defined FX or exchange rate for these particular companies. Yes. And mostly when we see this, the negotiation starts among the bank between the companies, and the banking actually happens by the status what you are carrying around.
Sure.
Like कि चेहरा देखकर बताते हैं कि तुमसे इतना परसेंटेज चार्ज करेंगे और तुमसे इतना करेंगे. So what's your thought around this and why it is happening so?
It's a very important, very interesting question, and almost like a black box in the way in which customers are treated in this business, right? There are very few things in the banking industry which lack transparency. This is one of them, okay? And the reason I say that is, if you look at, and I'll just take a small quick diversion. You look at the stock market. There's a start of the trading time, there's the end of trading time. You know the price that it opened, the price that it closed. So you know a price of a stock. So that's what it is. And during the day it fluctuates. But when you place an order, everybody gets the order at the same price.
Correct.
Right? That's one thing. If I place an order and at this time and this is the price, it gets done. Currency markets operate 24/7. There's no end to it, right? It's continuous. Now, a dollar rate at a particular time in the morning and 1 minute later, 30 seconds later keeps changing. Exactly. Right? Now, everybody knows that this changes. But how come, and like to your question, how come somebody who locks in a trade at any point during the day gets a better rate than you do? So when you say chehra, in the sense of a business, right? If you're a large corporate with a lot of money coming in or a great relationship with a brand, or which is could in the bank in this case, you will always get the finest rate of the day.
Correct.
Because the company has a favorable position towards you. If you're a small SME who is trying to do a business, and let's say he's exported something and he gets some money in for the day, he doesn't have a choice. And that is the guy the banks love, because they want to rip him off, right? They want to make money off him. So there is an FX fee, there's a transaction fee, and it may be executed at the same time.
And GST also gets added to it.
Yeah, that's fine. Taxes which is applicable for the government, no complaints, right? But suddenly you find a different level, right? So the difference for same $100 that's coming into your account and $100 going into a corporate account at the same time, executed the same day, at the same moment, is a difference sometimes of 1.5% to 2%. It's as bad as that. So why would you do that? That's because there's no regulation on this. Banks are free to price it. RBI doesn't want to get into it. And so you have small traders, small operators who suffer, and it's a free market. Consider this, you went to a hotel, you looked at the rate, every hotel has a rate chart which says today's TT buying, dollar buying, currency. This used to happen many days, moons ago. Practice has continued. Now some companies still have it. Some countries, some hotels don't have it. Go to some bank branches, they will also show you the same rate, currency buying, currency selling. But this interbank money, which is actually now electronic money which is coming in, has become this vast number, $75 to $100 billion.
Just to pause in between, there's no percentage set by by RBI to this any bank.
No, there is nothing.
Banks are deciding themselves.
Banks are deciding this.
Okay.
So if they decide to rip you off today, they can rip you off today. Okay. and there is no control, there is nothing, there's no explanation given. So when you go to the branch, because you're a poor guy, you're an entrepreneur, you go to the branch, tell me, how did you convert it? Sir, what treasury did this transaction right now? Whose treasury, where, what? I got head office number, I gave you the number, they applied, they did what they have to do. There's a fee, you take it or leave it, but the money is already come in, I have to convert today. I don't have a choice. It cannot be held. You see, it has to be converted before the end of the day.
And what happens actually, there's one personal scenario what happened. So there were not much company from where we have worked overseas, but there was some payment where we received $55,000 and there was a payment received at $1,000, for example. $1,000 we got a very decent rate kind of a thing. In $55 I need to hunt them for so longer time because it was first time it came to me. Now they were like, you need to decide and lock a percentage with us, XYZ, all those things. It got delayed by 7 days.
Wow.
Altogether. And to negotiating all those things because it was the first time it came to my account. But then too, it was an overall loss of around, for me, was 70 to 80,000 rupees, which I see from the online. If I see 85 rupees, for me 85 is, but they will say that we have a rate of 84. This difference I don't understand because
this difference is just purely the bank playing around with you, right? And so it's the gray zone. There is no clear guidance. There is nothing that is there which clearly says, this is what you need to apply, this is how you need to apply, you cannot charge more than this. Why can't RBI get this done? You have that for interest rates on loans. You can say, this is your minimum, this is your maximum, you have to give all the guidance. Do it. If it's transparent and it's on every bank's website, then I can choose which bank I want to go, right?
Exactly.
Unfortunately, that's not the story here. This is a grey zone, nobody's done it. The poor man gets ripped off in his business. And you have done it in the most silliest business, which is payments. You made everything free, so nobody makes money. But here, because there's no control, banks are free to do what they have to do. And that's what happens.
Interesting. So we'll come to the fact, like, you've been working in the market from past 30 years. Now, I think you stopped working.
Not really, but go on.
So 30 years. Initial 15 years you were in the banking, and the next 15 years of your stint was entrepreneurship journey.
All within the financial services.
Exactly. But how this shift from the banking, when you started, what was your journey and your take? And then when you came to this 15 years of entrepreneur journey, because these two are very different. These two are two different journeys, but sector can be same. How do you see yourself now? What are the things?
Yeah, I got, first of all, I must think that I got very lucky. And I'll say I got lucky because my banking career was all about entrepreneurship. I joined as a rookie trainee kind of stuff when HDFC Bank was just starting. And joined the first branch of the bank.
Which was in which city?
Which was in Mumbai, which was in Raymond House, and where HDFC's main office was a 6th floor branch, and so on and so forth. So I joined a bank which was just starting up. We actually saw the first branch being made, the first license being given, and I started as a teller. So everything for the bank, for me, for everybody in the bank was like a startup, right? So the whole excitement of a startup, I didn't know, nobody called it a startup. A bank was starting, India was opening up, privatization was happening, all that was there. But to me, it was just an exciting experience because I learned with everybody else. And we were bringing in new technology. We worked very closely with, a great company at that time, which was founded in the banking industry, which is called iFlex, and then, became Oracle eventually, right?
Okay.
And so entrepreneurs were building tech as well. So we were learning with them. And there were so many people around that HDFC Bank ecosystem. And I'm sure it happened with ICICI, it happened with Times Bank, and a whole bunch of banks that came up at the time. But there were so many people who got into entrepreneurship surrounding the bank. And we got lucky to work with them. So it became like a kind of addiction to say, hey, what can we do better? What can we do for, more innovative? How can we differentiate? So HDFC Bank was a startup. Then I joined a bank called ABN AMRO, which is setting up retail bank in India. So that was again a brand new experience. We ran the acquisition of Bank of America. First time we acquired a portfolio of a bank, retail bank, without actually acquiring the licenses. Very unique. And then, of course, Yes Bank, which we set up from, scratch again. 3 startups in banking industry was like super learning experience, super different, but all, telling you that if you don't put the customer at the center, you're going to go nothing. And I got lucky in a sense that I worked with superb leaders, right? Aditya Puri or Ramesh Sopte, all these people were absolute geniuses and what they did in banking. And so learning from these people tells you that entrepreneurship is a team game. You need a great leader, but at the same time, you need an outstanding team, right? And an outstanding team is not genius people, but normal people who look for the extraordinary stuff and make extraordinary things happen, right? So I got lucky with all these people working, creating great stuff. So when I moved to entrepreneurship, it was not easy, to be honest, right? Firstly, everything is a team game.
What was the year actually?
I moved to entrepreneurship in 2009-10, right? So it was an interesting time and we started doing things, building things, but different companies we built. And over years, one thing happened is that we got lucky again because I got to work with great people, very, very interesting people, very talented people, right? It was all about teams and people coming together, different perceptions of things. And that experience, again, tells you that, it takes a great amount of focus to rethink the same problem and do it better, right? But it took me, the first 15 years of learning from these great bankers like Aditya, taught you how do you need to be customer centric. Don't create things out of thin air. Customer needs are very simple. Just take it up and make sure you focus on that and make it really remarkable for them to love you the most, right? And that's all that happened. I mean, it's just brutal focus, great teams, and a lot of luck.
And in this all I will come to the first part first. Like when bank was new, HDFC was new, obviously. The journey of convincing people, because during that time, it's not about convincing individuals, more about convincing corporates and the family businesses to open their bank accounts in HDFC Bank or Yes Bank. So how that changed?
Okay. It's very tough. Let me explain this in a different way. HDFC is a remarkably strong brand, trustworthy, great customer service,
Correct.
Pure focus, household brand. By the time itself, 1994, 95, we were really talking about a brand which is already established, HDFC. I'm talking about the parent home, Deepak Parekh and team. Remarkable people, outstanding brand. When HDFC Bank came, the housing loan team and the bank team combined to create experience where they reached out to all their known people. So when you reach out to known people and say, come bank with us, we will look after you, and we are responsible for it, it used to be a great experience for the end consumer, but it also brought tremendous pressure on employees. I remember morning to night, I used to reach the branch at 7 a.m. in the morning because one person in the Churchgate area, one customer, overnight had a lot of cash from his department store. That cash had to come to the branch. He didn't want to keep it beyond 8 o'clock.
Okay.
So I used to come to the branch at 7 in the morning to open the vault to receive that cash, right? I had to be there before he came. So I had to clean the branch because nobody else will clean it. You do your own jadu and all that, clean it, make it clean, set up your teller station and wait for this man to come.
And bank timings are usually, that time also
9:30.
9:30, na?
But for this one customer, we used to do it. And it mattered because when all the other stores in the market, in the Churchgate area and Fort area,
They will come to know this.
They knew this was happening. People came. So when you see the ethos of the brand of HDFC and what people had created, customer service was everything, right? Similarly, so we did this. Nowadays, to everyday senior management, or when I say senior management, the leaders of the bank or HDFC used to come and give you a little shit. These are my friends, can you go on a call? A lot of them were top doctors.
Okay.
Now you've got top doctors. When do you get meet a doctor? You cannot meet doctors. They're very busy. Bombay Hospital, Breach Candy Hospital. 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you're sitting in line along with the medical reps at night. These doctors get free. You sit at the form and say, sir, this is what Mr. Parekh or somebody had introduced us. We come from the bank. Would you like to open an account? Say, I know it's late in the night, but this is the only time we have with you because, we're sitting along with the medical reps.
11 p.m. at night.
But that's the beauty, right? Look at the brand power. Those doctors will sit with you, understand the bank, open an account at that time because that's the only time they have. And then they go back to their work. So they are dedicated as well. They are doing a great job. but they trust the brand. And from like this, door to door, this bank brand was built. It was, and similarly for corporate, everybody who joined the bank, I tell you, because of the dedication, the leadership, the view, and everybody in the bank, from top to down, were doing the same. And HDFC had that brand experience. So that's how the bank got built. It didn't get built because somebody said, "Oh, I'm opening a bank branch, come and..." Nothing happens like that, right? It happens because of people. Every startup, every bank, it goes good because of people, it goes bad again because of people. Right? Because you don't have AI working there, you don't have humanoids or androids working there, right? You have people. And so people trust people. And that's how the business gets built. Technology is incidental to the whole
Exactly.
process. So,
But today also, I believe, like in the banks, actually, you talk to people, then only the trust still is
yes,
there.
right. So, that's the underlying thing is, trust. Bank, it's a very crazy thing, right? Bank is just a license. It's a license pass-through business. It's not your money. You're borrowing from individuals. You're lending to other people. You're making a money in between as a spread for various activities you're licensed to do. So what is your product? Your product is trust, right? And efficiency. How easy you make it for somebody, how easy you make it for yourself, and that is the margin. You try to get funny in between these two, then you'll fail. That's about it. But otherwise, it's all about very simple business. There's nothing creative in this business. What we bring technology is to bring the efficiency about it. There's nothing more to it. So that was the learning from this experience, right? So when we try and build a startup from there on, we try and bring the same level of trust because banks understand only trust. So when I became an entrepreneur, I'm trying to sell to a bank, then I'm trying to bring something which will enhance the trust experience and make it easier for somebody. That's about it, right? So it's not another app. It's not something else. Right? It is just about making the life of the bank easier and the consumers far better. You have to improve things. Otherwise, there's nothing that happens in this business.
Talking about a second journey, actually.
Yeah.
So what all companies you started building, like initially, the journey of the company?
I have a view, and I'll just tell you that I don't build companies. People build companies.
Correct.
Right, and I've been associated with many companies in various forms. And over the years, we started building a payments company with Vivek Sagar, who founded it, Advantage, which got acquired by Amazon, right? Then there was a company, which MRL Postnet, which Kishore founded, which got sold to Worldline. Those are all payments companies. They all did some great stuff, right? Very unique in their ways, but very, very interesting at the time, very advanced technologies, right? And then the Active AI was there, which I collaborated with two of my friends in Singapore. Again, when people didn't even know what AI was.
Correct.
Right. And at that time when we were looking at it, we found this .ai that time. It's a small island in Caribbean, by the way, that extension, right? So when you get that
Now
.ai,
it's very costlier.
it's very expensive now, but at that time it was very cheap, right? And it so happened, but it's all about machine learning, right? But what are we using machine learning for? And it's very simple. Like, how do you see these things, right? When we looked at Indian bank branches or banks in Asia at the time, we said, listen, there was a time when there were like 1,000 people standing in line in the bank, and then automation came and things happened. But today everything is digital. So how do you bring 1 billion people into a bank? And how do you service them? You cannot. Those technologies will not service. So you need to look at scalable technologies which can actually handle those many experiences, but behave human-like. And that is why we worked on machine learning to create a banking conversation layer, which enables a customer to have a conversation with a platform. Now, again, good people taking a very unique problem that didn't exist, how do you solve for it? And so on and so forth that happened. Right? So everything that we try and do and collaborate with people is all about solving a particular problem and making it easier for brands. And no different from regular banking as a teller, where I started. But every brand that I've collaborated with, every teams that I've collaborated with over the years, including Transbank, which I really greatly enjoy, because the corporate side of things in banking needs to improve significantly, become more digital. It's got ignored for a long time. I think these are all transformative initiatives. But again, it's just not one person. It's a group of people coming together who are passionate about the whole idea and work furiously and dedicated to that objective, right? And the joy is seeing customers use the platform
Correct.
and being happy.
Being
about it.
happy.
And you will do many things wrong. But then you learn from your mistakes, the greatest thing that you can do from this whole experience. And that's the value. That's why startups are more interesting. Right? You get the high of being transformative. It is not to say that existing brands don't do the innovation or they don't do startup. In fact, every company is a startup in its way, because when they bring a new kind of a product or a new kind of an experience, an existing company which making ICE engines, is internal combustion engines, making an EV, it's a startup within the company, right? So they're doing stuff. So it's all exciting at the same time. But in India, we tend to support and glorify founders too much.
Exactly.
I think that should disappear. What we should support is how good is this team solving problems. It's a whole bunch of things. It is in B2B especially. It's not only you, your customers also innovating with you.
Correct.
So he has an equal
They give
stake.
the
You've got an equal stake in your
Exactly.
business. So you need to celebrate the entire team effort to make that happen. We celebrate too often with this founder mania and stuff like that. A lot of founders have become like
Gods.
demigods and gods. It's scary. it's all good and it's fine for a lot of people. But yeah, listen, this is a very simple business. We are all in the business of consumers, and we should do a good job.
So what does Active AI used to do actually? Just a simple.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't do any AI. We did machine learning. Okay, we just found that AI very exciting at that time. I had this co-founder of ours. He's based in Singapore, Shankar. He's a very interesting guy. He's a lot of maverick in the sense that he goes deep into understanding customer psyche and all that. So he came up with this, and he and I were sitting in a coffee shop in Singapore. I was coming back from China on a trip back, and we were sitting and discussing, say, look at this WeChat and how it's growing and what's happening is crazy, right? And then he said, how do you think this will flow? And we were just doodling around how the conversations in banking will flow. And this whole set of doodles that came out in that conversation were all customer-centric to say, how would customers want things? Okay. And we said, hey, if I was sitting the most mundane activities, I would never go to a bank. Now, the thing is, in an app, I can do X. If the app becomes 500 things, then it'll be very difficult. What if I just had a search bar, right? And I just ask it anything. And that search bar went and found the answers for me and came back. Because we've all seen Google in the world, right? So we are, in a sense, everything for us is a search bar. That's the window to the world. What about if we gave a window from a bank to the customer? Instead of asking only 10 FAQs that is there are 10,000 FAQs that can be answered, but nothing is visible on the side. But everything can come out like magic. And what if I asked it in my own way as I understand? The way I ask a question, the way somebody else asks a question is different. Because nobody's doing it. So, okay, how do we solve that problem, right? So that was where we delved into machine learning. We found another excellent co-founder who's a brilliant techie, who's done this for banks for many long time. And then we built something for banks. And we were lucky because our customers, again, were our biggest sponsors. They were our guides. They helped us build this. I couldn't say that all my 17 years of learning, I understood this and I built it. Nobody built it before that, right? We learned from these people, and we learned from how their customers were using it, and so on and so forth. It was a little ahead of time, to be honest. It's very ambitious at that point in time to do all this kind of stuff. But what the heck, that's what startups do. That's what Active AI was. But it was a brilliant team, outstanding people, lovely people. I mean, we rode the COVID wave, we rode everything else together, right? Like every other startup which stood out, resilience and everything else. But I think to do that and then see today everything is becoming like that, it's interesting to see that, right? And I'm sure there are 100 better companies out there today, given the way technology is evolving. It's nice to see that and enjoy it.
Did you guys raise money in Active AI?
We did.
Okay, and then you sold the company to Gupshup.
That's right.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there are natural transitions which happen, and Gupshup's a great company. Birod is an outstanding entrepreneur. He's built a great company over a long, long time. And I have this belief that if you're surviving for 15 years, you're doing something right for customers.
Exactly.
And you have a vision to ride out many waves, right? And he's one of those very rare characters that you see. And he's done a great job, and we were very happy to get to collaborate with Gupshup in that journey.
So this is a common thing which I also observed. You talk about warriors, actually people who survived the corona. So I usually say to all the entrepreneurs that people who survived for 15 years are legends. People who survived corona and are still alive are warriors.
Yes.
Because this is the time that people cross that one.
Yeah, it's also a fact. Like, you know, in Indian market, the payback is not as fast as the American market, right? And a lot of Indian businesses, especially, it takes time. It takes time to build a good business in India to get. So you, as an entrepreneur, you try multiple things before you get a product market fit. Then the industry moves, the market shifts. So you got to match up to a lot of these things. So there's a lot of trial and error. But the people who sustain have already done multiple pivots. They understand how this industry works. So startup is about being customer centric, seeing the shifts and improving your centricity towards that customer. And it's a very tough task. It takes a lot of resilience, intelligence, and staying power in this business to be there. And yeah, I mean, there are very few who make it. To be honest, right? Very few who make it.
So, like in your opinion, the key strategic advantages that fintech can leverage today is AI. Like, what is the worst or the best thing which you feel around that startups who are building in AI can leverage that particular aspect and build some good innovation out of it?
Okay, now, so, you know, AI is a very long word, but most of what is used in this world is machine learning, especially in the financial side of things. And why is it so? Because at the end of the day, it's a customer, but the customer leaves a lot of data points. So you want to be able to leverage all the data points around all your customers to make sure that you have a great experience delivered to the customer. So if you take, for example, let's say identity verification, or KYC we call today. A lot of the KYC will be happening is on a phone. Somebody sees a picture, you know, you're using Aadhaar stack in India, or or using some KYC data. All that is machine learning. So there's a whole bunch of startups which are doing very well in that space, right? Some of them have never raised money. They're very profitable, right? And they're going global. So when you say machine learning, there's so much scope, like KYC, fraud. Again, fraud management, risk mitigation. Again, machine learning. Huge amount of data points. How can I get finer, improve better, and reward customers or penalize customers? Pricing, again, a massive opportunity for machine learning. So data becomes the core. So if you're a startup and you're starting to look at what are the points in which I can monetize in a financial industry, first you need to understand what are the data points that is operating in this space. Who is the end customer? What is the risk metrics that I'm dealing with? How do I maintain data privacy for this guy? Then there's a whole bunch of things that you can do. Now, can you be a bank? You cannot because you're licensed. So how do you work with a bank is the major ask here, right? So how do I take my tech in a box to a bank, take his data within the bank and make sure it works well? That is the magic trick that exists in this entire AI world. If you don't understand that, you can have the best AI, it's not going to work. Because banks are extremely regulated entities. Data there is extremely carefully managed. So you have to sync both. Once you understand how to use the data, then you can use machine learning to do what you have to do. And in India, we're seeing a lot of things. For example, all the lending that you see today, a lot of machine learning is applied to identify which customer is good for what amount, which customer is going to default now, how do I reach this customer, where do I reach this customer, and so on and so forth. So the lending cycle today, to me, is fairly covered with machine.
Exactly, 50% of the journey is covered, I believe.
No, 100%. You can actually open an account end-to-end from KYC and get a loan, right?
Okay.
Because everything is available. KYC data is centrally validated. Correct. You have multiple databases. You have India's only data-rich country in the world, which provides you data across all the accounts and everything else. So we are abundance of data in India. But if you have to use the data, you need to know how to keep it secure, work within the regulatory environment, and make sure that your algorithms are transparent. Now, when you say machine learning, you have to be able to explain what you're doing in machine learning. Explainability becomes very key. If you don't have explainability, then you are probably doing some bias or you're doing something. Then the guy who's responsible for deploying this technology is going to ask you these hard questions as a startup. And he's going to be governed by a regulator who's going to ask him the question. So you might as well know those questions ahead and you start building in that sense. So lending, onboarding, transactions, fraud management, massive areas continuously can be improved in a great sense in this space. So there's a lot of scope for machine learning. Again, AI, people, because it's a buzzword today, right? But what is used is machine learning, pretty much.
Exactly.
We use a lot of LLMs in understanding consumers. Conversation layer, that's coming up. Like you have companies which are doing a great job in, you can start a conversation in Malayalam, finish it up in Tamil or in Hindi with a bank on the bots or on the interfaces on voice. A lot of that uses a bunch of LLMs today, right? That again is serious stuff that happens. Most of the LLMs are developed in the western side of the world. There are a couple of vendors in India who are doing a very good job developing LLMs. And there are many more who are coming. So that's going to be a very interesting area for startups to explore because India is very diverse. We've got many dialects and many languages. So it's going to be interesting how we read that.
Interesting. So do you think that startups like in past 5-7 years have played a significant role in order to make the whole this cross-border payments or wealth management or transaction banking as a whole simplify with the banks actually?
Yes, to a large extent. Each of this is a very large business.
Correct.
Right. So if you take transaction banking in the true corporate sense of things, there is a company which is interacting with a bank. Exactly. He needs funds. Funds need to move back to him, up and down between multiple banks. The other thing is that there's trade documentation. Like there is somebody who's importing equipment or exporting something from India. Then there's a way in which it travels in the world. There's a mechanism which is set in place, which is usually the last leg is of course the money transfer, which is through SWIFT. But there's a whole bunch of trade documentation which goes through these rails, which have been there for the last 40, 50 years. They're archaic and they're controlled by a few entities which favor a few nations. Let's put it this way, right? A lot of that needs to change. And that is where a lot of the new generation of transaction banking efforts are going in. How can we bring blockchain to make some of those things faster, more secure, more transparent, and more, open in a sense that data can go into multiple places and be validated. So transaction banking is set for a massive transformation. At this point, the companies in India, which are doing a great job in multiple levels, they're completely changing the way a company can look at something which is purely manual to look at it digitally. For example, you take escrows. Earlier when I have to do a transaction and the money had to come into an account, let's say it's a specific account for a specific purpose called an escrow account. Now the whole process was there was to be one window in the branch, physically branch, where I had to take all my documents, get this done. It was time consuming. Today that's digital.
And what was that year?
This is like until 2 years ago, this used to be the process.
Okay.
Right? I'm not even talking about it's like until 2 years ago. Until now, companies like Transbank and all came and changed it into something like an entire digital process. And how can you make that happen? Loan disbursements. A lot of these things were like manual. It was just painful, right? Time consuming. Now it's like moving in minutes, right? And documentation moves, KYC moves, everything moves in minutes, right? Trade documentations move fast. All of that is possible because a lot of the processes have got converted to very smooth digital interfaces, right? And that is coming through innovation from startups. It is not coming from innovations from corporates or from the traditional big vendors, right? There's a company called RupeeFlow, right? Now, this is a very interesting company. As an NRI, you have to get your KYC done. Now, why is this significant? $75 billion money comes from NRI remittances to India, individual remittance, every year. This is more over above the
people who are staying
outside India, sending money to India, investing for home purposes, maintaining family, stock market, whatever. I have to do KYC. What do I do KYC? I need to produce my documents. What are my documents? My passport, whatever I have in various countries. I could be in any of the 150 countries which Indians stay today. Now I have to produce my documentation. When I go to documentation, I need notarized. What do I need to do notarized? I have to find a notary, or I have to go to the Indian embassy, which means time, effort. Then there's a cost involved in it.
Finding a notary.
Sometimes, finding a notary. Sometimes it's $300, $400, $500 to do this transaction for one member. Depends on each country, it's random. So startup took up this problem, one problem use case, figured it out, put a digital escrow mechanism in place. Now banks are using this process. You're getting it done in few minutes to few hours. How do you move things? These are transformation. What does it do to India? What it does to India, it makes life of consumers easy. It makes life of banks easy. It's compliant. You, instead of $75 billion, now you can say, can we get $100 billion? Right. So these are the kind of companies. This is what startups should be focusing at, right? All the KYC that you see today, brilliant job done by companies. There are 2, 3 in HSR alone, which are doing this fantastic job, from where we are here today talking. Incredible stuff, right? And they're coming up everywhere. And these companies have gone to a remarkable level of revenue growth, profitability, with some of them don't even raise funds. And this is serious machine learning. And some of those stuff that has happened. So it's good for the country, and it's good for the way people are understanding how do you work with B2B brands in the financial services space.
Interesting. So we'll be coming to the next segment, like RBI focus is on digital payments and financial inclusion. And did RBI are taking some kind of steps to include these technologies to help people like big banks or to the new age startups coming to become adaptable to the tech and the AI actually?
We have the most, I would say, supportive regulator, most, I would say, understanding regulator of what is digital and how it should go, right? So we all understand the impact of UPI. The numbers are out there. We have seen India as a digital nation. We've seen how much data we create around it. But the fact is, still a large number of people need to be reached in a manner in which it is easy for them to consume digital payments or digital services, right? And there's been a constant effort. So you see UPI Lite at one level as a new service which has come in, credit on UPI which is coming in. So at every level, RBI and NPCI and the related organizations, even the banks in India and the startups are all collaborating to say, hey, if we get this right, then for the next 20, 50, 100 years, we are actually serving the nation well, right? So it is a whole bunch of people across collaboration, right? It started. But where did this all start is very interesting, how the vision of Mr. Nandan and his team and the India Stack and what they did, but the way the entire ecosystem collaborated to make that happen and execute that, that is what. So RBI has done tremendous amount of work, holding it, putting the regulations in place, monitoring it, making sure disputes, everybody, even the smallest man standing in a remote village, is complained and addressed to. That is the value, right? We hear of frauds, every system will have go through the system. Whatever you do, there will be somebody who tries to hack it, there will be some fraud, there will be people getting connived, and whatever happens. But there is a team working tirelessly behind this, from the regulator, from everybody else, to make sure it becomes the most trusted system. Eventually it will, right? And then somebody will find a new way to do things better. But I haven't seen any other country have this kind of system. You can go to the US, you can go UK, you will struggle to use all the stuff to make payments, right? Half of Europe is still cash first, right? It's strange, except for China, which is, in a sense, very digitally advanced. There's no other country which is this advanced in terms of digital penetration at every level in different methods, all real time. There's nothing like settlement time. It's all real time, right? And it's all working at a price point which is ridiculously low. Yeah. This technology is getting now exported to multiple countries. So you're seeing what the regulators enabled is two things: the technology, the regulatory framework, and the risk management framework. The regulator has done a phenomenal amount of job around this. And hats off to them. Yeah.
All these past years, actually, have you seen like in terms of frauds happening decreased, or like it got increased in some of the manners?
India is very transparent. You see all the frauds data on the website of the regulator.
Okay.
So there is nothing for you to worry about it because all the banks have to report frauds. Why are we transparent? Because we know frauds will happen. So there are certain frauds where customers unknowingly do give away their data, and then subsequently something happens. And there are frauds where somebody's hacking into a system or doing something. So both kinds are there. We have recording of all of this. We have transparency. We are reporting all of this. This will exist in any system. The question is, it's a cat and mouse game. You do something, they do. In 2006, two-factor authentication happened.
First time.
Yeah. I happened to submit the first application in this country.
So you have seen things which we imagine.
Yeah. So let me tell you this very, very interesting story, right? Because you asked me how advanced is your regulator, how knowledgeable and how supportive your regulator is. So I was working for a bank called Yes Bank, and we sent in this application for our internet banking. Those days, internet banking was licensed, by the way. And it was crazy. So we wrote the form and submitted it, and it got rejected. We said, why are you rejecting it? They said, no, there's something called two-factor authentication you put in there. I said, yeah, we want to secure our customer transactions. So we have a method in which, at that time, we were doing the first RTGS transaction online.
2006.
So we actually thought of it, how it will work and whatever. So we said, we'll secure it, put two-factor authentication. Nobody in RBI had heard about this, right? Nobody in Asia was doing it, right? So when we wrote this and we said, this is a rejected application, said, what is this? This is not as per standard. This is something new. So we said, we explained it our way. I'm telling you, in that meeting, the regulators, whoever team was there, hey, this is good. This is great. We should go ahead with this. And they gave us our approval, but they also made it a way forward for all the banks in India to adopt. But we had the first moving advantage. I said, just give us that much time. Because we've thought through this, we've implemented it, we fixed it in the brand, we've done it, right? So two-factor authentication was very important from there. I remember when ABN AMRO, when we introduced, it's like 2003, maybe 2002, India's first chip card. Why would we build a chip card? Because we knew eventually that cards need to be more secure, and we could put more data into cards and do multiple things with cards, right? So innovation has always been accepted by the regulator, and they've always worked with how can it be secure. Anything to do with security, you can be rest assured your regulator is like on top of it. He understands it, he knows the technologies, and he's really looking to see how he can further some of these. So I mean, we're very lucky that way. We've got a very dynamic team at the regulator side of things.
But you cannot predict the future. But just asking this question, it can be a very vague question also. How do you see things coming more down the line? 2025 till 2035, what all things we can see?
India's roadmap is very clear. Again, where do you see a regulator with a roadmap? And where do you see a regulator who says, I want participation from the industry? So regulator's been very open, saying, these are my roadmap, this is my technology roadmap. Similarly, NPC has a technology roadmap. So we have anchor bodies for various things in India. Long back, there was a vision that, we should have check, there should be encoding of checks, then we should have checks with MICA, then we should have, can we go to a checkless economy? I remember when RTGS was launched and a whole bunch of things, right? Moving large payments. And the whole roadmap for payments is there. Similarly, we have a roadmap. As a country, we have a roadmap, very transparent, is available, and there's a vision document, vision payment. So we think a lot of things are already articulated there, but coming to the context of where the world is right now, right? There's a lot of conversations around how can we make sure blockchain works every time, right? So there's one whole track around how can we, what are the transactions we can put in blockchain? How can we make it smoother, faster, and everything else? There's whole conversations around digital money, right? In various forms, including, central bank digital currency, right? In a country like India, where money moves at speed of thought, it's very interesting to see whether there'll be any application for CBDC, right? But in a lot of countries where it's a challenge and the currency is not stable, maybe the people will go to CBDC. We have trust in our currency and we have a lot of things. But eventually people can store digital currency and to find some use cases. But people are trialing all of this. So you will see something around, digital currencies happening. You will see mainstreaming of some of that. You may see mainstreaming of some of the crypto business in some form regulated, right? All of these things will come. there will be various ways in which some of these come. But the interesting area is what is the technology which is going to go around it. So if you follow Mr. Nandan Nilekani, there's a whole concept of Finternet, right? Which is a very interesting concept, the document that he's put out there. Again, very rarely do you see a country and its leaders putting out documents out there, inviting comments, saying, hey, this is the vision forward, right? That way, India is way ahead. And, we're open sourcing a lot of things out there. So, Finternet enables you to visualize a world where almost every asset is trackable, tradable, movable, transferable, and everything is documented. You know the whole tracking of that. It's legit as a business, right? And I'm just trying to summarize some of these things. So these are the areas where a lot of things are going to happen. So it'll impact trade significantly. It'll impact, when Mr. Nandan, I was watching his interview and he was talking about, actually president, he talked about real estate assets in India. I mean, land. It is very difficult to say this piece of my land. Even the documentation is not very clear. It's in local language. But if you put it in some form of an identical digital tracker, which is what the Finternet allows you to do, amount of value of land that is going to get unlocked in India is phenomenal. Phenomenal, the value of that. A small farmer can then find a real value from anywhere, somebody sitting somewhere else who wants to buy that particular piece of land and pay more and know that that piece of land is now owned by him. The unlocking of these assets is going to be very interesting. Right? So that's the future. I mean, a lot of these assets will get unlocked. A lot of things will happen, but there will be a digital framework for it. And knowing the way our country operates, everything is going to be completely digital and transparent.
Exactly. So now the ending thing, this is one interesting thing about you. Like in India, what happens, even someone raise $1 million, they become a god. Like I see all articles, all PR, everything around him. You have built or helped building so many companies. When I was trying to find about you online, I never find anything about you after you have done so many amazing things. What made you do this? Like you're not being so much in the online thing.
This is not me. It's always a team. So first of all, I think it's who you are as a person.
Correct.
Like, I genuinely believe that I was very lucky to work with some great leaders and great teammates, right? And it's always them. I mean, yes, I did contribute. I feel proud to be a part of the team. Whatever we did, we did. And there's a joy in doing that. It's also my customers. I mean, at the end of the day, they did a lot. And it's unfair to say I did this at the end of the day, right? There's nothing that you did. I mean, everything is a team and that's how it works. And that's the beautiful piece of this world, right? And I enjoy it. I mean, I'm very happy to be there. I know it's good. I mean, it's good that, you have your peace and you're not worried about.
The reason of asking this question was because nowadays people perceive all this as a fame actually, because people run after fame. You as people, I have seen people actually after they do some small also, they think that I have done something great. That is the only reason to say your perspective around it.
I don't know how to answer that one, but I do think that, sometimes the media puts the entrepreneur in a very awkward situation. If you ask most entrepreneurs, they would be scared to be in the limelight. They would be very happy doing what they're doing. I would be very careful to say that, the media puts people in a very awkward situation. It happens to our cricketers as well. It just makes one guy in the team a massive rock star. But it's not fair because that guy knows that he is there because of the other 10 people who are making sure that he is doing what he is doing, right? So it's the same story. I mean, in the movie as well. If there was no villain, the hero had no role to play.
Exactly.
So everybody knows it. I think it's our media. It plays up. And they're always the oddballs. But you should not. I mean, most entrepreneurs would not even bother to be in media. They would just dive into their data and their customers and be happy there. That's the way I think most people I've met are like that. They just shudder when their picture is put up there and say this, oh my God, what's happening today? I think they're all very focused on what they do.
So as an ending remarks, what do you think as one golden suggestion which you'll give to early stage entrepreneurs? I'm talking about the age group of 20 to 25. These are the people who are lost now. I'll be very frank. I speak to this set of people more. So these are set of audience who are mostly lost. What is one thing when they do start their startup journey or entrepreneur journey, they should take care of themselves?
First, take care of your health. Entrepreneurship is not for the weak-hearted, and it is a very long road. It is very tough. Solve for a problem that you personally have experienced, or you've done a beta test without any data, without any digital media, to ask people the question and go deep into why. You see, the more narrower you are, the more deeper you go, highly likely that you will find the real problem. If you are at the top of the funnel and say, okay, everybody needs a better voice bot, it's not going to work. It doesn't work. You need to go deep and ask yourself, ask people, ask people 50 different questions. You don't need a better looking app. You need an app which answers the question the customer is going to ask. And do you know that one question?
I completely agree with this. I made the first version of Pixel in 2019. 4 years, I never changed a button also. We reached to 8 lakh users until our backend started becoming unstable because of the old code what we have written. So I always understood that if you're solving the core problem that answers the questions of these customers, better looking, good looking, all those things doesn't matter in the longer run.
I'll give you a very interesting analogy, right? The biggest and the most innovative companies in the world spend enormous time not to change anything on the website, like Google. Why? Think about it, right? The Google website doesn't change. I mean, it takes a long time for somebody to even put a dot on it.
Exactly.
Right? In India, BillDesk as a company, I remember from the day they started, outstanding founders, great focus on customer experience. Until very recently, maybe after 20 years, they went and changed their website. They never changed the website for 20 years. Whatever it was, it was. People knew what they did, and it mattered to them how they executed the website. Didn't matter, right? It's a brutal focus on what are you executing. What do you stand for your customers? That's what matters. Now, as an entrepreneur, it does not matter what you do on the face of it, which I mean is, what is the core of it, what you're doing is important. And is he going to pay you for it?
Exactly. With this, thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you so much for attending this one after so long. And I hope this was amazing conversation with you.
Likewise, I enjoyed it very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. Stay tuned and we'll be coming up with the next episode super soon.